Ellis Green's office looked like every other county building I'd ever been in. Beige walls, flickering fluorescent lights, the faint smell of burned coffee. The kind of place where decisions outlived the people who made them. He slid a thin folder across the desk without opening it. "Warning siren maintenance," he said. "Seasonal contract. Immediate start." That sounded fine. I'd done radio towers, municipal wiring, emergency systems. Sirens were simple machines, loud, honest, predictable. Ellis didn't smile. He just tapped the folder once, like he needed it gone. "You'll be paired with Marla Vance. She knows the system." "The system," I repeated. He nodded. "Follow her lead. If anything feels off, call it in. Don't improvise." I almost laughed. Instead, I stood. No handshake, no welcome, just a nod that felt more like a waver. Marla Vance was waiting beside a county pickup with the logo half peeled from the door. She looked like someone who'd spent too long outdoors, weathered jacket, steady eyes, no wasted motion. "You Nate?" she asked. "That's me." "Good. 9 nodes today." I blinked. 9? She opened the driver's door. "You'll see." We left town fast. Cell service dropped mile by mile until my phone was useless. The road narrowed into farmland, flat fields, bare trees, and siren towers rising every few miles like metal skeletons. The first stop was just after noon. A lone tower near a drainage ditch, fenced off with sun-bleached warning signs. Fresh gravel ringed the base like someone had disturbed the soil and tried to hide it. "Standard swap," Marla said. "Battery, cabinet, quick tone." Everything checked out. Power off, cabinet sealed. But as I stepped closer, I felt it. A hum. Not sound, pressure. A vibration I felt in my teeth, in my boots, like standing too close to heavy equipment. "This one live?" I asked. "It's off," Marla said without looking up. "I'm feeling something." She paused, just long enough to matter. "Some of them do that," she said. "Don't listen too hard." I laughed like that made sense and finished the job. When I knelt near the fence, my palm brushed the gravel. It was warm. Not sun warm. I didn't mention it. By the 4th siren, the houses were gone. Just fields and towers and long stretches of road with nowhere to pull over. The sky stayed clear. No clouds, no wind, nothing that justified this much urgency. At the last stop before dusk, Marla pulled a laminated sheet from the console and handed it to me. "County wants you to read this." The header read, "County Warning System, After Hours Service Protocol. No test tones after sunset. If animals move toward the siren, stay in the vehicle. If you hear a tone after power is disconnected, do not investigate." I stared at it. "This is joke?" "No," Marla said. "It's procedure." That night, back at the depot, she tossed the logbook onto the bench. I flipped to the last entry. Node 7 drifting. Heard breathing. The lights clicked off behind us. "Welcome to the route," Marla said. And for the first time, I understood I hadn't been hired to maintain weather sirens. I'd been hired to keep something quiet. Ellis met us the next morning in the depot bay, standing beside the truck like he'd been waiting all night. He looked worse in daylight, eyes red, jaw tight, tie loosened but never removed. He didn't bother with small talk. "I need you both to acknowledge the protocol," he said, handing Marla a clipboard. Then he looked at me. "Especially you." I glanced down. Same laminated sheet as before, now stapled to a single-page acknowledgement form. "This is just liability," Ellis added quickly. "County policy." Marla signed without comment. When she passed the clipboard to me, I noticed her hand was shaking just enough to be deliberate. I signed. Ellis let out a breath like he'd been holding it since yesterday. Good. Today you're checking nodes 5 through 8. If anything deviates from baseline, you stop and call it in. No exceptions. What's baseline? I asked. Ellis's phone buzzed. He checked it, flinched, then tucked it back into his pocket. You'll know, he said, and walked away. Node 5 sat at the edge of a fallow field. No fence this time, just a concrete pad and a tower rising out of open dirt. As we pulled up, I noticed birds lifting from the trees farther down the road, all at once, like something had startled them in unison. Marla killed the engine. In and out, she said. The cabinet was unlocked. That was new. Inside, the wiring was intact, battery pack fully charged, radio link green. Nothing wrong on the surface, but the air inside the cabinet felt thick, like static before a storm. When I keyed the handheld radio to run a brief noon test, it crackled, then a voice cut through the static. My voice. Stop, it said. Flat. Close. Stop. Stop. I froze. Marla slapped the radio out of my hand and powered it down. The sound died instantly. We stood there in the silence, the tower looming overhead. That happens? I asked. No, she said, then quieter. Not often. I waited for more. It didn't come. At Node 6, the ground around the base was wrong. Ants covered the soil in thin, organized lines, all moving toward the tower. Not frantic, purposeful. I watched them long enough to realize they weren't avoiding us. They didn't acknowledge us at all. Marla stayed in the truck this time. Quick check only, she said. When I ran my hand along the ground wire, a pulse traveled up my arm, slow and steady like a heartbeat. I jerked my hand away, suddenly nauseous. The siren was powered down. It was still humming. I didn't tell her that either. Node 7 was marked deferred in the route notes. We stopped anyway. The tower stood farther from the road than the others, half hidden by a line of leafless trees. Yellow tape fluttered loosely from the fence, faded to near white by the sun. County doesn't like us stopping here, Marla said, eyes forward, but I needed you to see it. The ground around the base wasn't just disturbed, it had settled unevenly, like something beneath it had shifted and never quite gone back. As I stared, the hum returned, stronger now. I felt pressure behind my eyes, in my teeth. Then I noticed something else. Scratches on the concrete pad. Not tool marks, not weathering. Parallel grooves angled upward from the soil toward the base of the tower, as if something underneath had pushed and slid and tried again. Marla opened the back of the truck and pulled out an older logbook, its cover warped and stained. This one doesn't go to the county, she said. Inside were entries written in different hands, some decades old. No battery dates, no voltage readings, just observations. Tone drifting. Animals converging. Second resonance detected. Do not let it wake fully. I swallowed. Wake what? Marla closed the book. That's as far as we go today, she said. If Node 7 starts sounding again, we don't fix it. Then what do we do? She looked past the tower, out across the empty fields. We make sure the others don't stop. As we drove away, I glanced back at the tower in the side mirror. For just a moment, I could have sworn it was leaning, not from wind, not from age, but like the ground beneath it was slowly, carefully adjusting its weight. We didn't talk on the drive back. The hum followed us anyway, faint, intermittent, like a tinnitus that came and went depending on the road. Every time we crossed a low spot or bridge, I felt it swell in my teeth, then fade again when we climbed. That night, I dreamed of standing in a field while something massive shifted beneath the soil, rolling over slowly, careful not to wake itself. I woke with my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Ellis called before sunrise. "Route change," he said. "You're going back out, nodes 8 and 9. "That's not on the schedule," I said. A pause. Paper rustled. "Schedule changed." Marla said nothing. She was already pulling on her jacket. Node 8 sat farther out than the rest, past paved roads, past fences, past anything that looked maintained. The tower rose from a patch of land the county technically didn't own anymore, foreclosed, abandoned, forgotten. As soon as we stepped out of the truck, the air felt wrong, heavy, dense, like sound traveled slower here. The cabinet door was bent outward, hinges strained. Something had pushed from inside hard enough to warp metal. "This is new," I said. Marla nodded. "It's drifting." "Drifting where?" She didn't answer. When I crouched to inspect the base, I noticed a narrow seam in the concrete pad that hadn't been there before. Dust puffed gently from it with each vibration of the hum, as if the ground were breathing. I backed away. "Marla," I said, "this isn't equipment failure. This is resonance," she cut in. "Harmonic instability." I stared at her. "You're saying that like it explains anything." She finally looked at me fully, and the calm she'd been wearing cracked. "These towers aren't alarms," she said. "They're anchors." The word hung there. She leaned against the truck and spoke quietly, like the fields might be listening. "Long before the county existed, something moved under this land. Not fast, not violent, just constant. It followed pressure, sound, vibration. Old farmers lost cattle, then people. Sinkholes that weren't sinkholes. I remembered the fresh gravel, the settling ground. During the Cold War," she continued, "the Army mapped seismic voids all over the Midwest. Most were empty. Some weren't. This one reacted to sound. And the sirens? Lullabies," she said. "Keeps it from rolling over. Keeps it from waking all the way." My stomach tightened. "What happens if it does?" Marla's eyes flicked to the tower. "That's above my pay grade." Node 9 was already sounding when we got the call. Not a test tone, not a warning cycle. A sustained, low wail that didn't cut through the air so much as press down on it. Ellis's voice came through the radio, tight and clipped. "Node 9 activated without authorization. Weather conditions are clear. Are you seeing movement?" "Movement?" I asked. Marla turned the truck onto a dirt road. Ahead, headlights caught shapes moving through the fields. Animals. Deer first, then cattle, then smaller things, raccoons, dogs, walking calmly, deliberately, all in the same direction, toward the sound. "They're converging," Marla said. "That's not good." The hum intensified, vibrating through the steering wheel. The siren's pitch shifted slightly, off-key, like a singer losing control of a note. Then I felt something new beneath it. A second tone, lower, uneven, almost rhythmic, almost like an attempt. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't in the air, it was in the ground, in my bones. Ellis came back on the radio, breathing hard. "You need to stabilize that node, now!" "What if we can't?" I asked. Silence. Then, quietly, "Then it starts to rise toward the quiet." The siren wailed on, steady and wrong, and somewhere beneath the fields, something answered. Not with sound, but with motion. The ground ahead of us rippled, just once, like a vast shape turning in its sleep. By the time we reached Node 9, the siren had settled into a steady wail that made my vision blur at the edges. The sky above it was perfectly clear, stars sharp, moon bright, no clouds anywhere. It was the wrong kind of night for a sound like that. The tower stood in the middle of an open field, its red aviation light blinking calmly, indifferently. The horn assembly was vibrating hard enough that I could see it shudder with each pulse of sound. The animals were already there. They formed loose lines across the field, moving slowly but without hesitation. Deer walked shoulder to shoulder with cattle. Dogs padded along with their heads low. None of them made a sound. None of them looked afraid. They all faced the tower. I stepped out of the truck and immediately felt the pressure hit, like altitude sickness without the height. My teeth ached, my chest felt tight. "Stay inside," Marla snapped, grabbing my arm. "Rule 3. I hadn't even realized I was walking. Closer to the tower, 2 human figures moved among the animals, a man and a woman, barefoot, their steps careful and measured. They didn't look lost. They looked focused. "People," I said. Marla swore under her breath. "It's pulling wider." The cabinet at the base of the tower hung open, door twisted backward. Inside, every breaker was down. The main power feed had been physically cut, the thick cable severed cleanly. And still the siren screamed. "That's not possible," I said. Marla didn't answer. She was staring at the ground. The soil around the pad was shifting, not collapsing, not breaking, just moving. Subtle waves rolled through the dirt, spreading outward in slow pulses. Dust lifted and settled with each one. Then I saw it. Faint lights beneath the soil. Not reflections, not electrical bleed. They moved in a slow, deliberate pattern, like something vast was passing under layers of earth and stone. Rule 4. Rule 6. My radio crackled to life on my belt. My voice came through again, distorted and stretched. "Don't stop it!" I tore the radio free and threw it into the field. It landed among the animals. None of them reacted. The siren's pitch dipped, then wavered. Beneath it, the second tone grew clearer, an uneven warble that rose and fell, almost shaping syllables, almost forming breath. Marla grabbed the emergency shutdown lever inside the cabinet and pulled it down hard. Nothing happened. She pulled again, screaming this time. "No, no, no!" The siren cut out abruptly. The sudden silence was worse. For half a second, everything froze. Animals, people, wind. Even the blinking light atop the tower seemed to hesitate. Then the ground exhaled. It wasn't a sound so much as a release of pressure, a deep settling sigh that rolled through the field and into my chest. The soil beneath the tower slumped inward slightly, as if something enormous beneath it had shifted its weight. The tower leaned, just a fraction. Not enough to fall, enough to show it could. Marla stumbled back, breathing hard. "We woke it too much." Ellis's voice came over the truck radio, strained and fast. "Status, report!" Marla pressed the transmit button with shaking fingers. "Node 9 lost harmonic control. Partial rise detected." There was a pause. Then, calmly, "Initiate containment." I stared at her. Containment? She looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met her, the truth was written plainly on her face. "We don't shut them off," she said. "We guide it back." Another ripple passed through the field, stronger this time. One of the cattle collapsed to its knees without a sound. The siren tower creaked. Marla turned toward the truck, already moving. They'll bring the generator, the old unit. And then what? I asked. She didn't slow down. Then we sing it back to sleep, she said. Behind us, deep beneath the fields, something shifted again. Not restless now. Curious. They arrived without sirens. 2 county utility trucks rolled in from opposite sides of the field, headlights low, engines idling like they didn't want to be noticed. Men stepped out wearing reflective vests with no names, moving with practiced efficiency. No one asked questions. No one looked at the animals. They unloaded a generator older than anything I'd seen in service. Olive green, stenciled numbers half sanded away. Military surplus. Analog dials. Thick cables that looked too heavy to be practical. Ellis Grain emerged from the passenger seat of the lead truck. His face was gray, eyes fixed on the tower. Status, he said. Harmonic drift, Marla replied. Second tone active. It's rolling toward the quiet. Ellis nodded as if she'd told him the weather. Then we correct it. I grabbed his arm. You're acting like this is normal. Ellis finally looked at me. There was no fear in his eyes anymore, just exhaustion. It's happened before, he said. Not often, but it's why the system exists. They fired up the generator. The sound was rough, mechanical, nothing like the siren's smooth wail. Cables were run to the cabinet, bypassing everything modern. When they connected it, the hum changed, deeper, steadier. The siren didn't start. Not yet. Marla crouched near the base of the tower, staring at a small steel hatch I hadn't noticed before. Its edges were scarred, metal warped outward like it had been pushed from below. That's the subwoofer vault, she said quietly. The real speaker. My stomach dropped. You never mentioned that. We don't, unless we have to. Ellis cleared his throat. We need manual reconnection. The cable's out of phase. I looked between them. Manual how? Marla stood. Someone goes down, reconnects it by hand. The ground rippled again, stronger this time. Dust rose around our boots. One of the human figures near the tower swayed, then sat down gently in the dirt, eyes unfocused. I shook my head. No, find another way. Marla met my gaze. For the first time, she looked tired, old. There isn't one, she said. The sirens don't just play sound, they shape it. If the pattern's wrong, it follows it up. Then don't play it. That's worse. She handed me her jacket. You keep them synced, she said. That's the job. Before I could stop her, she grabbed the hatch handle and pulled. Warm air rushed out, carrying a vibration so deep it made my vision swim. The second tone grew louder, almost eager. Marla climbed down the ladder into the dark. The siren began to hum again, low, controlled. The animals stilled. Seconds passed. Then Marla screamed. Not in pain, not fear. Recognition. The sound cut off abruptly, swallowed by the ground. The generator strained, then steadied. The second tone faded, collapsing back into the main note until it was gone entirely. The soil settled. The animals turned away as one, wandering back into the dark without a sound. Ellis placed a hand on my shoulder. We'll file the report, he said. The county will compensate you. I didn't answer. Weeks later, I quit, moved 3 states away, tried to forget the feeling of that hum in my bones. It didn't help. Sometimes, late at night, when the world is still, I feel it again, faint, distant, like a memory vibrating through the ground. And once, just once, at noon on a clear day, I heard a weather siren test in the distance. Beneath it was a second sound, soft, uneven, like something learning the tune. If you've ever heard a weather siren on a clear day, one that lingered just a little too long, you might want to pay attention next time. Some warnings aren't meant for us. Some sounds aren't alarms at all. If this story stayed with you, if you felt that hum settle in your chest, let me know in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more stories about the jobs no one explains, the rules no one questions, and the things that only stay quiet as long as we keep listening, subscribe to Campfire Horror Stories. New stories every week. Same fire, same dark. Like the video if you want the sirens to stay in sync. Share it if you think someone else needs to hear the warning. And remember, when the sound stops, that's when you should worry.